What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Curry talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. Today I'd like to welcome David Lloyd to the program. And before we chat with David, I'm going to talk him up a little bit because he's got a really great resume to support what he does. And so I thought just good for everyone to know just where he comes from and a little bit about him. Firstly, David's originally from the UK. He's now living and based in Hoi An, which you would know from some of my other episodes is a beautiful place in Vietnam. His background includes journalism and photojournalism. He's had work published in the New York Times and also written guidebooks on Vietnam and Laos. So he's no slouch, if that's the best word to describe him. Lots of knowledge, I think, gained about Vietnam accumulated doing that, I would expect. He's also a full-time sport and race director of all events for Topas Trail, and he's been doing that since 2016 when he was involved in the original race. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what that looked like then to what it looks like now. And when I talk about race, we're talking about the Vietnam Trail Series, which I'm sure if you are interested in that kind of thing, that will definitely come up on your radar. So, David, welcome to the program. But before we get into anything in depth, I have just it's probably a quick question with a slightly long answer. Tell us what you love most about Vietnam.
Hi, and first of all, thank you for the very kind intro. That's very nice. So when I first came to Vietnam in 2011. And that was thanks to my wife, Becky. It's her decision. So she was a primary school teacher back in London, and she had 6-week holidays, of course, as a result. And one of those holidays she took off without me and explored Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. And when she came back, shortly after that, we got married, and we'd always spoken about living overseas somewhere. And so she'd said Vietnam would be a good place to start for 6 months based on what she'd seen on those travels. So the plan was Vietnam for a few months, 6 months maybe, and then we were going to move on. But essentially, very long story short, we never did move on because we both absolutely fell for the place, and work-wise, everything fell into place for us. And as you know, it's a very easy country to fall in love with, and we did. So, 10 years, and we've never really never looked back, and certainly never regretted the decision to come here first.
Okay. Now, when I think about running and, I think of it as a very solo sport. It's like something that you can enjoy for many different reasons, but sometimes it's the sport or the game that you actually play with yourself, so to speak. So before we get into the competitive side of the sport, which you've certainly taken to a new level, there's lots of talk about running and walking and that kind of experience now, especially, during COVID, post-COVID, as a way of keeping positive and for our mental health. Tell us what you love about running and or cycling. What does it do for you is a question.
Well, that is a big question. What I love about running for me really started with running in the mountains in Wales. And that is both solitary pursuit and something that you can enjoy with friends. So a lot of mountain running is very sociable because you'd go out, particularly if you're not trying to run fast, you go out with a group and it's about enjoying each other's company and enjoying the beauty of the mountains. But I also used to go out there solo. So I would drive up, camp, and then run for 20 or 30K or so, and then come down somewhere completely random in a valley and hitchhike back And something that I loved about that was the fact you could run off a mountain in the middle of nowhere in Wales, stick your thumb out, and it would generally take maybe one car would go by before you'd get a lift. And so that would kind of really, fulfill your faith in humanity with other people who are kindness to pick you up and take you back. So you got a lot of things out of that day running in the mountains. But road running is not really my thing, but I see a lot of people get a lot out of that in the same way, in terms of, personally you can run and get very fit and run alone and clear your mind and de-stress. But also, particularly here in Vietnam, people do it in groups. You've got huge run clubs of sort of social run clubs, and then companies with run clubs. And it's a great way for people to get together. And it's also a great leveler. So whether you're the CEO of a company, or you're just starting out in a company, or you're a student, or whatever you do, everybody's pretty much the same once they get their trainers on and go for a run. I think that's a massive part of why people love mountain running and love road running. And the cycling is a similar thing, really. It can either be great in a group or great alone. But the added benefit of cycling is you can go further. So it's a lot about exploration, really finding out about a country, with adventures of elements of adventure as well, particularly in Vietnam. So you can often have the feeling here that you might be the first person to have ridden that road, or one of the first people anyway. So it's a pretty much is unbeatable. I would say it's an unbeatable way to discover a country. And also, of course, you're getting fit and healthy and enjoying yourself, and generally with a big smile on your face. So lots to recommend both.
Yes, and I think it is that that feeling of when you are out running, experiencing the fresh air, the environment, the togetherness, as you say, with people in a safe way. But if we now focus on the Vietnam Trail Series, as I understand it, that kind of kicked off around 2013, and I think your numbers were around about 200 or 300 people at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking at 2021, and you're thinking that, or when we spoke last, that there could be up to 10,000 runners across your trail series. That's a massive growth. How do you explain that growth in participation?
Going back to 2013 when it started, so that was it began in Sapa, where the Topas Eco Lodge is. And at the time, the general manager was Asger Koopman, and he loved mountain running the same as I love mountain running, and a few of the other key people he pulled in as essentially volunteers to work on that first race. And at that time, it's fair to say there was no mountain running or trail running scene at all in Vietnam. So you're right, there's around 200 runners, and of those, I would say around 10 were actually from Vietnam. So when you look at it that way, it would have been pretty hard not to grow to some extent. But the growth rate that we've seen is has been huge, and it's an exponential at the beginning, certainly. So it was from 10 and then and 200 people. And then over the years, it essentially doubled for a few years, overall participation. But within that, the number of Vietnamese was growing fastest. So the appetite for adventure and mass participation sport in Vietnam has been growing hugely. I mean, but I think back in 2013, I used to live next to the Công viên Thom Nhat, or Independence Park in Hanoi. And you'd look out the window there, or I'd run in there, and it was pretty full of runners. People exercising and all sorts, Tai Chi, running, walking, whatever. But they weren't joining the events because there weren't many events to join. And also, and while it was busy in that park, it wasn't rammed like it is today. Like now you run through there and you're weaving between people. So it's not only the racing, but generally the participation in sport has increased here a lot. So.
And you're right. I can remember coming to Vietnam, over 10 years ago, and the Vietnamese, generally speaking, apart from maybe yoga, meditation, and that was starting to kick off. But, they didn't have gyms. Gyms, initially were in hotels, and the only places that you could go to, and they were mainly for foreigners. The Vietnamese themselves, I didn't see that appetite. But you're right, in the last 10 years, now you've got, volleyball on the beach, you've got running, you've got cycling, you've got gym clubs, you've got, the Vietnamese have really embraced sport and become, definitely more active in that. So in talking about the trail series, I got to spend a little bit of time just having a look at some of the stories and the personal experiences from the runners themselves, just through looking at your website. I might add, before I go on, the aerial footage that you feature on your site. So I'm going to put links, etc., in the website for that, so that people can just have a look at the space and the environment that they're going to get to experience if they join one of your trail series. But talking about some personal experiences, I think there was one lady named Shemaine, and they were talking about some of the aspects of the trail and about the fear of running downhill. And they were talking about just being aware, and I'm talking to people who are obviously going to be examining their own fitness levels. So talk to us a little bit about, running uphill and down dale, just about the fitness around running, using poles, just managing heat, dehydration, that kind of thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think that's something people will be thinking about if they're going to come and do something like this.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Charmaine. She's a pretty extreme example because she's the 100K champion. And
oh, wow.
I remember her very well. She's an Aussie. And I remember her very well because as she crossed the finish line, she came right into my face and said, "David, I hate you. I'm never doing this again." But with a big smile on her face. And she's a real character, and she's really well liked and a lot of fun in the trail community. But she's pretty extreme, so she might have said something about her ability downhill, but she's very modest. Like, she's very, very good at up and down and with whatever you throw at her. But generally, we have from 10K up to 100K. So the Charmaines of this world can join 100K, but normal people can choose 10, 15, 21. And then we have 42 and 70. But the ability to run, I mean, run is a key word here, because while it's called trail running, even someone like Charmaine, who's winning the 100K, is spending a lot of that time walking because it's so steep up that the fastest way to get up, sort of running economy-wise, is actually to walk quite often. So you'll walk as fast as you can up if you're a good top runner. But if you're a normal person, you will be walking quite a lot anyway. So it's about running when you can on the easy trail, and then the ups and the downs, you just take them on as well as you can do. So for some people, that means walking uphill fast. For some people, it means just getting to the top so they can get down the other side again. Yeah, it's just keep moving. I mean, some people call it, when it gets longer distance or longer time, like Jasmine Paris, we just interviewed. She's one of the best ultra runners in the world. We just interviewed her for our website, and she said it's like one long picnic going on an ultra run. And it's about being the best at picnicking and running at the same time. So it's or like an eating contest with running thrown in. You've got to keep getting your food in and finding out what works for you food wise. So yeah, for people who like to eat and be active, it's the ultimate sport really. So a lot about eating, keeping eating and keeping moving. And yeah, like us for new runners, or mountain runners or mountain walkers, whatever you want to call it, it's really about making sure you enjoy yourself. So yeah, certainly some training is needed, but as long as people start off with the shorter distance events and don't bite off more than they can chew at the beginning, then they should have a good time, and then sort of gradually progress through to the longer distances if that's what they want to do. But yeah, for most of our runners, out of those 8,000 or 10,000, it's not really about eventually running 100K. It's much more about having a good time and getting out onto the trails and having an adventure that they would never normally have, sat behind a desk in the city 9 to 5.
From your experience, do people come to Vietnam ahead of the series to do any like pre-training, or do they kind of land, arrive into Hanoi, have a good sleep, next day they're into it, or do they kind of come a couple of days ahead and kind of acclimatise? Is that something that you see?
Yeah, the people, I would say definitely, the people who are coming in from overseas, like a lot of our runners are regional, would be Singapore, Hong Kong, and they would tend to come in with a day or two. Like, one thing is so they can just get over that flight, and another thing is so they can enjoy being here. Because if you're going to fly to Vietnam, it's not normally just about the run for most people. They want to see a bit of Hanoi before they come up to the mountains, enjoy some food, see the cafe culture. So, they tend to come in earlier, and I absolutely recommend if people have the time, of course they should. And then ideally they should stay for a week afterwards as well and go around and enjoy what Vietnam has to offer. But and people are coming from Australia, like I say, like the Charmaines of this world, and they'd be having a week or 10 days holiday because it's a long flight, and they want to make the most of it for sure.
And, people coming from the UK and Europe, the same. It's a bit of a journey. So why not? Hey, look, you talk about the food. I had a look at your organic pumpkin soup and recovery green smoothies. I mean, they sound pretty awesome. Are they on the menu? Are they part of the picnic race?
So the picnic element, people tend to bring quite a lot of picnic in their own backpacks, but what we provide is so that one specifically is from Christian, who's a chef we have up in the Topaz Eco Lodge in Sapa, and actually now he's general manager of the Topaz Riverside Lodge, and he's big into sort of farm to table and organic as much as possible, and we partner up there with a lot of the growers. So we know where our rice comes from. We have people who grow the fruit that we purchase directly from, and then it actually goes through in the Eco Lodge in a nice sort of circular economy. In that the food waste we have, we'll then turn to compost, which we give to the farmers, or to just straightforward animal feed to give to the pigs. And so he's really into this, and also he grows his own vegetables. But that's his recipe, and that proves pretty popular on the checkpoint. So for the longer runners, they get food on the way around the race. If they're doing 70K, they'll get fed on the way. But all runners, when they come to our finish lines, they get a meal. So at the Eco Lodge, that's prepared at the Eco Lodge. And if we do a race, so we do races in other places which don't finish conveniently our own property. They finish in the middle of nowhere in a field. And that's kind of more fun in a way, harder work. But we have a chef, Vienne, who's become amazing at setting up like a field kitchen, almost military style. And he creates food for 4,500 runners sometimes in the kitchen. And he'll employ local people. He'll bring his own key team, but then he employs local people in the area and just creates like a crack team of cooks. And they knock up. So we always have that pumpkin soup, but then we'll have another dish that's more local to each area generally. So we have a sot bang, which is like a beef stew at the Mok Chow race for the meat eaters. And then we've got the pumpkin for the non-meat eaters. And then we'll have a load of different vegetable options and local fruits. And so almost like a buffet when you finish the run, because whether you've run 10K or 100K, tend to be quite hungry. And actually, even the 10K runners, they sometimes take hours and hours to finish the 10K because it's on the trail and it can be. And they also like to take a lot of photos along the way, so it takes a long time. And so when they arrive, it can be quite late lunch. So they're quite happy to get stuck into Vienne's food that he prepares. So that's actually one of my favourite aspects of our races, is to watch what he creates in this. Like I say, it's just a field with nothing in it, and then it's serving 4,500. So it's a little shout out to Vienne there, who's a pretty amazing chef.
Yeah, fantastic. So talk to us about these locations now that are involved in each of the trails. So I think is there 4 locations or 3?
Yeah, there's 4 now. That's very current of you, because we're just adding the 4th one in June. That's just about to come up. So the original is Sapa. So that's the place that's of your
number
listeners.
1.
Yeah, they know. Perhaps your listeners who've been to Vietnam, well, certainly if they've been to Vietnam, they know Sapa, and if they're researching coming, they'd know it. It's the sort of classic part of an itinerary here, and what that's famous for is the grand, big, high mountains and the rice terrace, the majestic kind of rice terrace scenery that you think of when you think of Vietnam. That's up there with all of the ethnic minority villages amongst it. And so the big draw of running there is, like I say, the highest mountains in Vietnam and perhaps the most picturesque rice terraces there. And also it's the first one, which started in 2013. So it's sort of seen as it's the original, it's the biggest, it's the hardest. You can throw a load of superlatives at that race. So that's Vietnam Mountain Marathon. And this year we had 100 miles at that race, which is for the truly insane who want to run 160K, which is completely ridiculous. But anyway, they want to try it, so we're giving it to them this year. And then we have Mok Chow, which is That one, I would say, would be famous within Vietnam, but not well known at all outside. And what it's famous for here is in just before Tet or Lunar New Year, the blossom season comes there. So you have plum blossom, peach blossom, apricot flowers, and it's incredible. And people from anywhere love it, but people here completely go mad for it. So you're running through these incredible, dreamlike scenes of blossom orchards. That's in Moc Chau. And actually, that area also has a lot of different ethnic minority villages and just incredible trails. And then the third one is in Phu Luang, which is the more extreme case, because here, when we started...
Where is that again, David?
That's 4 hours south of Hanoi in Thanh Hoa. But, I mean, you ask where it is, and even people in Hanoi would say, where is that? When we first found it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
They didn't know it. So that one was...
How do I spell that?
Phuong, Phu Luang. It's a nature reserve area, but it was off the map, pretty much off the map when we went there. And there was one hotel there with a pool that wasn't well known yet, and that was 2017. And now it's becoming more on the map. So if you say Phu Luang to someone in Hanoi now, they'll know where you mean. But that area is pure magic. And that's almost got everything apart from the beach that you think of in Vietnam in this small microcosm area. So amazing rice terraces, limestone mountains, beautiful ethnic minority villages that look like they haven't changed for years, and awesome trails from a runner's perspective. Really excellent runnable trails, and a lot of diversity on the course as well. But it's one of those places where no matter how useless you are and no matter how bad your camera phone is, you can't fail to take an amazing photo of that place. So it was a no-brainer to set up a race there from a beauty point of view, but from a sort of logistics and accommodation point of view, it was a daft idea because in 2017 there was not much there, and you could barely get a bus there. So we had to do a lot of work to set that one up. But it was worth it for sure. It's an amazing race, that one. So that's Vietnam Jungle Marathon.
Lots of people taking selfies along the way.
Yeah, it's Vietnam, so it's selfie is key.
It's selfie heaven. Yeah. So what's the fourth one?
So the fourth one, we're going back to our roots, and that one's coming up in June, and that's going to be called VMM Nậm Cang. So Nậm Cang is an area of Sapa that people wouldn't know, and that's where the race is going to finish. And it's going to go for the 50K. It's going to start in Sapa and go up onto the high mountain ridge, which is so it's a ridge run style race, like a sky run style, which has never been done in Vietnam before. So it's another first. And also it's a great one for if people will do the 100-mile later in the year, they can test part of that route. But more importantly, most people will never, ever run that 100-mile. Even a good 70K runner won't do it because it's, as I said, ridiculous is the word. So this is a chance for people who are more normal to see that route that the people who are they're very much not normal will do when they run the 100 miles. So it's like open it up for more people.
And, doing it in June, is it, I mean, June to me spells heat.
Yeah, it will be hot, definitely. I mean, we had Jungle Marathon in May before and we've moved it because it was so hot. But what we do is we start early. So the start times are really early. And people who do these kind of things tend to quite like getting up early, luckily. So the shorter distance runners will be done by the time it gets super hot. And then where we finish, there's a river right next to the Topas Riverside Lodge. So people will finish and then just go and jump in the cold river and hang out with some beers, I hope. I've got this image in my mind, don't you, of everyone hanging out with a cold beer in the river. Absolutely. And music and just having a good time. But yeah, it will be hot. That will be a challenge. But one thing is now everyone who's going to do it is going to be living in Vietnam thanks to the borders being closed. So everyone will be heat acclimatized and ready, hopefully.
For sure. So talk to me a little bit about, prereqs for the marathon. Like, is there an age barrier or age set that you take on? And talk to us a little bit about the safety aspect of that. If somebody kind of collapses along the way or, is affected by heat or heat exhaustion, talk to us a little bit about how you manage that.
Yeah, so there's age limits. They vary depending on race. And the one in May that I was talking about, we had a higher minimum age limit because of that heat aspect there, actually. But so for the longer distances, sort of 21K and up, you've got to be 18. For the 10K, it's younger and it depends on the race, but you have to be with a parent or guardian who will run with you. So you sign a consent form for the kid. So you're taking care of the kid who's coming along with you. And then we have a 5K, which kids, I think they even say they can be 6 for the 5K, but they, of course, they have to be with parents or guardians to take them to go along with them. But that 5K one is normally it's in January, so that it's the weather is fine, and beautiful. It's not very far, and there's no big climb. So, and then always along the way we have lots of water stations with food, fruits. We have fruits and water and electrolyte, so to the dehydration aspect. And at every aid station we have medical staff, and then we have people on the course with. We all have our phones dedicated for the race, so it's not like you've got your Facebook and everything on that. It'll just be a phone just purely for the race. And so if that phone rings, you answer it. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you answer it. So that's for me and my key core management team. And we also have satellite phones. So even if we were out of reach, which we never really are on most of these races, but we've also got backup satellite phones. So we've got the place pretty well covered. And then we're very, very fortunate to be partnered with Hong Kong, which is they used to be known for their hotel. They had a Lloyd quarter in Hanoi. And that's how our relationship with them goes back to the 90s as a company. But now they're in medical, and they're about to open a massive hospital in Hanoi. That's, I can't remember how many beds, but it's a colossal. And we're lucky to have them as our medical partner. So they have, I think the most we've had is about 7 doctors, 2 or 3 ambulances, and 10 or 12 nurses from them. And then we supplement that with the medical team from the local area as well. So we have the local hospitals provide staff and ambulances, and they're also on backup, ready if anything happens. But we're luckily that nothing has happened that's been major yet. So of course, we've had small issues with ankles and some dehydration issues, but nothing that hasn't been able to be sorted sort of within the day. So yeah, we're lucky. We talk a lot about drinking. So if you come to our race on the start line, I'm generally there, and I'm sure people think I'm like a broken record, but it's all the time. Remember to drink, remember to drink, remember to drink. Especially at 4 a.m. on the start line for a long distance, it's not hot yet. And people aren't thinking about they need to drink necessarily, especially newbies. So it's a case of sort of drilling it in. And then our checkpoint team constantly reminding people to drink when they come to the checkpoint. So, so you definitely have to keep an eye on, or keep a lookout. And remember that you've got to take care of these people on the course. But yeah, as I say, luckily, no big issues yet.
That's a great record. Just something else I noted about what you do, which I think is fantastic, that, your marathons go to support some various charities, as in Operation Smile, Newborns Vietnam, Blue Dragon. How did that come about? I think that's a great way to contribute to the communities. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I can say that without sounding arrogant, because that wasn't my idea. Originally, when it started in 2013, I think it was the first race, if not the first, then very early on, it was decided that a portion of the race fees would go to charities, and that's been up to $20 per race fee for the longer distance one, and which is definitely unusual in terms of the percentage of the fee. And so at the beginning, it was Operation Smile and local charities. What we do is split it 50% between, or local projects, that we could manage in Sapa, because we've been working there since the 90s, and then 50% to a national charity or international charity. So that was originally Operation Smile, and as the races grew, and now I think we've given around $300,000. So that's too much, way too much for us to handle in local projects. And also, I wanted to split it between more charities. So the first other one I brought on was Newborns Vietnam, which I have a quite close relationship, because it's a British charity, and I was involved with them on a personal level, fundraising through challenges before. And they work to reduce neonatal mortality and critically ill babies. So that they started in Da Nang, and there's a great graph of what their impact was in Da Nang Hospital. So it just basically falls off a cliff, the mortality rate, when they went in there and started working with them, because there's so many small things that they could do which made a huge difference with very little money. And now they work more long term, bringing in the professors from UK teaching hospitals and teaching here. And the idea is they teach, and then the people here learn, and then they teach. So it's sustainable for the long term. So hopefully at some point they won't be bringing people from Britain anymore, and they'll move on to do other work. So that's newborns, and then we also work with Blue Dragon, which is Blue Dragon Children's Foundation. Now that's a fellow Aussie who started that one of yours, and he's amazing. That's Michael. So he started that as a kids charity, working with kids on the street in Hanoi, and that grew then to not only work with street kids but also victims of human trafficking. So they do amazing work bringing people back who've been trafficked to China, and then they work on advocacy, and they work on changing the law here in Vietnam to be better attuned to the victims of trafficking when they come back. And they also have a kids running club now. So when we started working with them, we gave some free slots for VMM, and V, who's an amazing guy who was a former street kid, became their, if not their head of social work, then one of their top social workers working with the kids, and he's set up the run club. And so we do that together now. So each week, once or twice, like V will always go. One of our good runners, Quang Nguyen, goes along and coaches them, and I'll go when I can, when I'm in Hanoi. And so these kids they're amazing, and they now train once or twice a week, sometimes more, and then they come up and they run mostly the 10K because they're young, but a couple of them are doing 21. And not that it matters how good they are, but there's also some pretty good talent. You can see there's promising kids in that group, one or two. So that's a great thing to be involved with for sort of on many levels. And there are other charities we've worked with, but those are the top three the current three that we're working with now.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the Blue Dragon because of a charity I support called the CEF Foundation. I don't know whether you know Linda Byrne. She's based in Hoi An. Yeah, so I know from an education point in the trafficking side of things, I think is key for, young and impressionable Vietnamese to be aware of the tricks and traps that can, they can be exploited by in that area. So it's great to see you involved with that. And, of course, the others as well, Operation Smile, Newborns Vietnam. We might put some links to those charities and that in the episode notes for sure. So in summary, if you were to give some advice to anyone considering this, and as I said before, I'm sure across the globe, everyone listening is thinking, of Vietnam as a place to come post-COVID because of just how well it's done through COVID as far as managing the COVID pandemic, but also because it does involve some great opportunities to do things like what you do. What advice would you give them, if they're thinking about this and joining one of your trail series, like train up, like get out there and get really super fit and, start doing some training in hot weather, or I don't know, anything like that.
I'd say do it. I mean, I would say anybody could do it. So you've got all people of all sorts of shapes and sizes coming across our finish line, and you can have a flick through and look at our videos, and you'll see that you can see people of all sorts from all walks of life doing it. So I'd say, do it. And if you I certainly do some training, like it would be a bit daft to not have done some at least longer walks before you come and have a crack at it. And try and do something of similar distance to what you're going to do. So if you sign up for 10K, try and do a 10K walk or run before you do it. But I would say for a lot of people,
start at 10K.
If you've never run before or walked in the mountains, then it could be a good start. Or 21. A lot of people do 21K off the bat. Actually,
I do 5.
Yeah,
I think I'm doing well.
If you look at it as a long hike, then people will have a bit more confidence, I think, to go for something longer. But here in Vietnam, people will just go, just sign up for 42 and just do that first. But actually, we have some regulations about that to guide people that they shouldn't jump in at the deep end. But yeah, I'd say do it. And for many people, almost all people, I'd say if you get something in a diary, it gives you that motivation to get out and run. So, the hardest thing about starting with running is getting out the door and that first kilometre. But once you're out there and you've done the first K, walk or run, it's worth it. You feel a lot better and you start to feel like you're moving better, but it's that initial part. But for a lot of people, just getting that done it's not going to happen without some reason. And the reason can be making a race putting a race date in your diary. So whether it's a 5K, in your local city, or a 10K in Vietnam, getting something in there to motivate you is key, I think. But I think if you're in Australia and that thing is a 21K in the mountains of Vietnam and a holiday to get in shape for, I think those are two pretty good carrots. So yeah, why not? Of course, it's takes a bit of a leap of faith to book something now, of course, but I think things are starting to look like they're it's not so unrealistic to think it might happen in the next year. So in 2022, I think we could be welcoming people again from where you are and from around the world to run these races.
Yeah, I think this week's a little been encouragement in some media that's come out that, Vietnam is recognising that they do need to look at opportunities to open their doors to tourists. And now the vaccine is getting rolled out. I think, vaccine passport holders and things. I think I'm crossing fingers that, yes, end of the year 21, 22, hopefully we can welcome people back to Vietnam. So I've started this thing, David, where after Lunar New Year, I've decided to try and pick a word for the year to help me focus on everything I'm doing. So I'm going to tell you my word for the year, and that'll give you a couple of minutes to think about what yours would be. But mine is revive. So my aim for the year is to revive the best experiences of Vietnam and share them with everyone on this show. Because I think to talk about Vietnam in a way of, it being stuck in COVID, it's never going to be stuck in COVID forever. So, anything I can do to revive the travel industry and tourism and put, a positive spin on coming to Vietnam, that's what I'm about. So my word's revive. Do you have a word for the year of the buffalo?
I think I would cheat and have two, but one would be...
Oh, you can cheat. I'll let you cheat. There's no rules here.
But something key for us, really, and what I try and instill in my team here is resilience. So really, you've got to be resilient at the moment here, because you can have everything set up and ready to roll that we've had the recent race and that we had to postpone for a few months. And the key thing everyone in our team needs to be is they need to be resilient and be able to keep going. And also they need to be, second word would be optimistic. So like you say, things are going to open up here, and we've been extremely lucky in Vietnam in the last 12 months with the way the COVID situation has been handled. There've been a few little waves, but they've always been resolved, and we've been able to domestically open up things again to have the domestic tourism in these races. So I think each time something happens, we need to be resilient and we need to be optimistic and remember that it always comes good here in Vietnam. It has done. It's been 4 times. So yeah, optimism and resilience are my two. I'm sorry, for cheating.
I like it. I'll take them. David, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks for sharing your experiences and everything about the series. Really love to explore that further. I'll make sure for everyone listening that I put as many links in the episode notes so people can contact you directly to know more about it and get involved. Sincerely, just great to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's great to spread the word more, and a real pleasure to be on, and thank you for having us to help us spread that word further.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information. What about Vietnam? Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam. What about Vietnam?